Touche, y'all best pull up a chair and sit a spell, cause we about to take a trip down where the air's thick, the moss hangs low, and every shadow got a story to tell. Tonight, we talking South of Midnight, a game so steeped in Southern Gothic it might as well come served with a side of cornbread and ghostly whisper in your ear. We got old legends walking around like they own the place, swamps full of secrets, and enough eerie charm to make Flannery O'Connor say, "Now hold on a minute. No RSVP needed. Just grab yourself a bowl of gumbo, swat off them skeeters, sweet tea, or maybe something a little stronger. Cause we about to wade knee deep into the haunting, the beautiful, and the downright strange. Just don't go making deals at the crossroads, you hear?" South of Midnight, developed by Compulsion Games, the creators of We Happy Few, clearly demonstrates the studio's commitment to story-first design. Every element from the mechanics and UI to combat and even the music serves a singular purpose, to support the narrative and convey meaningful themes. If you've ever played We Happy Few, it's a game I'd recommend to those who don't mind exploring darker themes where society masks its pain with artificial happiness and emotional numbness. It's a unique experience for players who appreciate storytelling that delves beneath the surface. Compulsion Games isn't just creating games, they're telling stories that aim to resonate on a deeper emotional level. While We Happy Few explored the breakdown of societal connection, South of Midnight shifts the focus inward. It invites players into a personal journey, one about trauma, resilience, and the quiet hope for healing. Rather than posturing characters as victims waiting for rescue, the game encourages players to bridge the emotional gap between isolation and recovery. Hazel, the protagonist, is introduced not as a warrior, but as a healer. And like any true healer, she can mend wounds, but the will to recover lies with those she helps. In a gaming landscape crowded with one-dimensional leads and shallow motivations, South of Midnight stands out with a story that feels genuine and soul-stirring. Not every game needs to be a perfectly fleshed out main character, but South of Midnight reminds us that a well-crafted narrative can carry a game in ways that spectacle alone never could. For players who prioritize story-driven experiences supported by intuitive combat systems, Compulsion Games offers a compelling blend worth exploring. Our story centers on Hazel, a sharp-as-a-tack young woman with a stubborn streak and a heart that's just as fierce. She lives in a small southern community with her mama, the kind of town where front porches are confessionals, sweet tea solves just about everything, and secrets are about as rare as a snowstorm in July, because let's be honest, everybody knows everybody's business whether they like it or not. Now, just as Hazel's fixing to head off into college and leave her little cluster of nosy neighbors in the rear view, a big old hurricane starts brewing off in the coast. People start preparing in their own unique ways, some practical, some downright questionable. And the storm rolls in like it's got a personal vendetta. But the real whirlwind starts when the rain stops. The storm kicks off a mess of problems that forces Hazel to stick around a little longer than she planned. That's when things get strange. Real strange. She starts seeing patterns, connections in the world around her that aren't quite making sense until
What was that?
through a bit of poking around and some unexpected revelations, Hazel uncovers family secrets deeper than a bayou and learns that her strange new gift has roots that go way back. Turns out, she's a weaver. Someone who can stitch together the past and the present like a well-loved quilt. And in doing so, Hazel doesn't just find her purpose, she finds lessons in empathy, civility, honor, and grace. The kind of values that aren't loud, but mighty. I've played a lot of games, everything from hyper-realistic shooters to retro pixel throwbacks, and the always slick cel-shaded titles. And honestly, each style has their own strengths and quirks. Some hit hard with nostalgia, others aim for immersion, and some just go wild on the vibe. But then I fired up South of Midnight and yeah, this one stands out. The art direction here is really something else. It's got this stop motion, puppet-like look that instantly reminded me of movies like Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, or Kubo and the Two Strings. You can tell the devs were going for that handcrafted, slightly surreal aesthetic, and it works. The visuals are super expressive, and the colors just pop at every scene. Now, let's talk about the cutscenes. I'm not exaggerating when I say that they were some of the most enjoyable I've seen in a while. There's a cinematic quality to them that pulls you in without trying too hard. Like, I actually looked forward to seeing them instead of mashing the skip button like I usually do. That said, I gotta be honest, I turned off that choppy stop motion style effect during regular gameplay. It's cool at first, but after a while, I felt like the controller was glitching out. I know it's supposed to add style, but I prefer smooth gameplay when I'm in the driver's seat. While we're on the subject of visuals, I know some gamers love that whole cinematic thing, but I always end up turning off stuff like film grain, depth of field, and motion blur. Film grain just looks like my screen needs a bath. Depth of field? Cool, but my eyeballs already know how to focus, thank you very much. Motion blur? Yeah, nothing says I'm in danger like swinging a sword and not being able to see what I just hit. But cutscenes, I leave those as is. That's the dev's canvas, and I respect that. Let them paint the picture how they intended. If you've been watching our channel for a while, you probably know that I'm not one to shy away from tough combat games. I'm talking pixel perfect timing or get one shot kind of vibes. I've sunk hours into survival Skyrim, sweaty ARPG tournaments, Wukong, give me God of War mode, and most recently the first Berserker Kazan. So yeah, that led me some high stakes action combat. Which brings me to South of Midnight. Now look, I've got a lot of respect for this game, but if you're coming in hoping for a tight, satisfying combat that'll keep your adrenaline spiked, this might not be it. Combat here, it honestly feels more like a bridge, something to keep you moving from one story beat to the next. It's there, it works, but it's clearly not the star of the show. You've got different difficulty modes to choose from though. Story, easy, balanced, advanced, or custom. But I wouldn't stress too much about which one to pick. The core gameplay doesn't really shift all that much. Enemy variety? Pretty limited. You'll fight the same types over and over again with some slight changes as the story progresses, like new enemy combos, bigger waves, or different arenas, but it's never the focus. That said, I did really enjoy some of the boss fights. Bosses in South of Midnight tend to lean into your weaknesses, and they're not afraid to punish you for slacking. Some of them push me hard, dodging, jumping, and throwing and attacking all in one tight window. That's where the game's combat really shines, just enough to get your pulse up without turning into a full-blown skill check. What I also appreciated, beating a boss didn't always mean their story was over. This isn't a defeat evil and move on kind of deal. Remember, Hazel isn't some revenge-fueled warrior, she's a healer. Her journey is about connection and restoration, not domination. So here's the bottom line. South of Midnight isn't a combat-first game. It's a story-driven experience where fighting is just part of the path, not the destination. Go in for the atmosphere, the art, and the characters, and just let the combat do its thing in the background. Enjoy your time in the South, but don't expect to sweat too hard out there.
Tough doesn't even begin to cut it.
South of Midnight isn't trying to be your next open world time sink, and that's by design. This is a story-first experience, tightly woven and purposefully linear, but don't let that fool you into thinking it's rigid. The world still gives you breathing room, small detours, and hidden corners where you can wander just off the main path. These offshoots often reward your curiosity with lore tidbits and floofs. Yes, that's the game's wonderfully oddball term for experience points. Traversal feels refreshingly smooth. Paths are wide and forgiving, even when you're hopping across ledges and navigating vertical spaces. You won't find yourself inching along precarious beams or engaging in pixel-perfect platforming. The goal here isn't to stress you out, it's to move you forward, scene to scene, through a world that's equal parts grounded and enchanted. Speaking of enchantment, the environmental storytelling, it whispers. You'll pass a hulking snapping turtle lounging on a riverbank, You'll notice mushrooms glowing faintly in the shadows, and sometimes, if you're paying attention, you'll stumble upon a tiny whimsical burrow straight out of a storybook. Well, think Peter Rabbit with a Southern Gothic twist. Books on miniature shelves, little tables set for dinner, and a quiet suggestion that even the smallest creatures live rich, unseen lives. It's a world that feels alive in the moments that you don't expect it to be. A world where imagination doesn't just fill in the gaps, it inhabits them. There's a fair amount of climbing and wall running throughout the game, but it's all very forgiving. And in this case, that's a good thing. I enjoyed the precision required in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, where every jump mattered, but South of Midnight isn't playing that game. The combat isn't overly complex, and if the traversal had been demanding, it would have felt out of step with the rest of the experience. As for the action sequences, they're not flashy for the sake of being flashy. They exist to serve the story, to guide you deeper into the hauntingly beautiful world. And yes, sometimes you'll spot a stray tire or a crumpled piece of corrugated metal tucked into the scenery. But even those moments feel intentional, reminders that beauty doesn't require perfection. In the end, South of Midnight doesn't overwhelm you with freedom. Instead, it invites you into a carefully crafted tale wrapped in strange magic and quiet wonder, where every path, no matter how small, has something to say.
You're not what I expected.
As we push further into modernity, the real world fades ever deeper into the realm of fables and folklore. The swamps, though occasionally crossed by wanderers, demand a rare kind of soul, one who welcomes solitude where time drifts between a dreamlike mist and an artifact of the past. It's like discovering a candy jar made from depression glass that was left on a shelf in a home older than your grandparents. A vessel shaped by hands from a time unaccustomed to indulgence. A generation that treasured what we now take for granted. And the 50-cent price tag still hidden at the base. Out here, the phones are dead as ghosts. And Wi-Fi ain't nothing but a fairy tale folks tell in the city. The past don't ask permission to creep in. It just does. Pressing against the present like a hand on a fevered forehead. The boards moan underfoot, and the air is thick with the smell of old wood and damp rot. And somewhere in the black hush of night, frogs sing their slow dirge. When we stumble upon these forgotten relics in the light of our modern age, we don't always know whether to bow our heads or turn away. The old and the new lock eyes out here, neither blinking, neither yielding. And that's the spirit that this game's bringing to the barbecue. Old meets new, side by side, sharing the same plate. Well, if the video is something that you like, then give it a like, and subs are always free in YouTube. Comments are the best way to tell us what you're thinking, and they also are a bit of a monster for the YouTube algorithm. Definitely does help. But if you did enjoy this video, maybe you'll like this one as well. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.